All right, we're recording. This is the 26th of September, 2018. This is SIG API Machinery. We only have a couple things on the agenda, and they're both from me, so apparently it's going to be the lava lamp show today. Is there anything anybody wants to add to the agenda before we get started? I'll take that as a no. Now I have to remember what I was going to say about this. I thought it might be worth giving a heads up. I noticed while somebody was fixing something unrelated that the JSON patch library that we use permits negative indices. So you can like count back from the end of an array. This is used when we apply a patch. And I also happen to know from having read the spec for unrelated reasons that the spec does not allow this. So I think the right thing to do is not support this because we don't want to accidentally grandfather in things that aren't in the spec that we actually support.
How long has it been there?
That's an excellent question. I'm not entirely sure. I don't honestly expect anyone to be using this because mostly it's controllers sending patches.
I'm reminded of something, a bug fix from a long time ago. I was doing it. Were you planning on just removing it straight out or providing a way to turn it back on when someone's cluster explodes?
I mean, I was planning on just removing it, but that's part of the reason why I bring it up here. Like, I don't know how. I guess I was thinking more along.
Cherry pick, right?
I'm sorry?
You're not planning to cherry pick though.
No, I was not planning on cherry picking. The reason I bring it up here is just the general concept that we should begin thinking about standardizing our API server and all the operations we support, and then the specific way that shakes out here, because how risky do people think it is to turn off this feature?
So I think that for turning off a feature like this that we don't want to support, I can definitely think of this and other things that we would want to do. But when we start going about that, we normally go through a process where you indicate that it's deprecated and can opt into the new behavior. And then the next release, we have it so that the new behavior is on by default and you can opt out if you wish. And then the next release after that, you just no longer get a choice. You have the new behavior.
Does that first step add much safety here? Like over just announcing that it's deprecated now?
That has been a long running discussion between myself and Jordan. And he thought that it was polite to notify people. And I thought that nobody ever read the docs, so it didn't matter.
Is this going to be a feature or a bug? Because the standard is saying it's not allowed, right?
Well,
the standard permits, just since I happen to read this, the standard permits referencing the position after the last element with a single dash character, which is also pretty strange, but that's what's in the standard. It doesn't permit like counting backwards using negative indices.
So I guess what I would like to see the transition happen where where we don't accept the thing, but you can turn on that feature again if you need it for one release, and then the release after that is just gone. I think that would be behavior I could get behind. In terms of whether it is supported by the spec and a bug, if it's been there long enough, whether we think it's a bug or not, if we don't have a security reason for just breaking it, I would rather go through like a one release. You've been warned. Here's a flag to turn it back on if you really need it. And the release after, you just have to deal with new behavior.
So I'm going to write down here that the way to turn off bugs like this is to give a one release window where that can enable. I mean, we can also document that if a large number of people find the need to use this, then we can reevaluate whether this. But we shouldn't.
Yeah.
If we have like stuff like this, we shouldn't also be claimed. We shouldn't also claim to follow the spec, right? Like we should either claim to follow the spec and actually follow it, or we should
Don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that we need to keep this feature. What I'm saying is that we need to have a way to make people aware that they need to make a change without making it impossible for them to upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that seems fair to me. Does anybody think that's too safe, not safe enough? Okay. I'm also going to say there's general agreement around we should follow the specs claim to follow.
If the internets explode like they do every time cluster up or every time client Go changes, we may want to think about a relitigation of it. But
yeah, I'll document. I'll document.
I mean, like I'm gonna assume we are reasonable people, so.
But I'd also say, I mean, JSON patch is not just client Go, right? It's all of the.
This is in the server. This is in the server.
No, I know, but my point is that the negative index is coming from the client, right? Or
I don't believe our client ever admits a negative index. Somebody feel free to correct me.
okay.
I don't know.
I mean, we know that there's a patch command on the CLI. We know that people use it. I can positional checks are problematic in general, so I wouldn't expect much of an issue. It's just using this as a test case for like a general what would we do when we tighten our API. I think we can tighten our API, but I think we need to be somewhat measured about how we do it.
Yeah. Our position has been that we're allowed to fix bugs.
Yeah.
I think if the client is exercising this behavior, then we'll find out immediately when we turn it off.
Probably.
Yeah, the test, yeah,
Because
some tests should
yeah,
fail.
I think we'll fail in some tests. Okay, cool. Further thoughts before we move on? Okay, and the other thing I thought I'd say, since we're all here, is just a short update on how Apply is working. Antoine, Jenny, and I sat down and did some soul searching the last couple weeks, and we've evolved the design quite a lot. The basic, if you followed the previous design, the basic actual implementation of Apply was going to be to track the user's last applied state. And when they send a new state, we subtract off their last state and then apply the difference to the existing object and update their last state. After a bunch of discussion, we came up with a new design, which is, instead of tracking a last applied state, we're now going to track an owner for each field. And the way that we've got a data structure in mind that tracks basically a set of fields. A blocker that prevented us from going with this design in the first place is that there's no general way to do a conversion on such a field set. Like, you can't run it through our existing conversion functions and figure out what the corresponding field set is in a different version. But it turns out it's not so simple to do that with partially specified objects as in the original document. And the technique that I came up with that will work for the original design, like variations on that, will also work for this design. So it's actually not a blocker like we thought. some benefits of doing it this way are we don't have to repeat the field values in metadata, which will keep the size down and also reduce the risk of like leaking some security sensitive thing. So that's good. And we also think that we can limit the cardinality. Like the previous design had a problem where if a bunch of people applied things, like you could just grow the list bigger and bigger. So we think we can keep the list down to like a constant factor of the object size.
Are the external semantics of apply going to stay the same of server-side apply? Or is
we think that like literally every test case in my original document will give the same behavior. That's the plan. So it's like you shouldn't notice it. This should be an implementation detail. It's like a rather like it will have a profound impact on the API. So we'll have to specify that and get a new API in progress. I was really hoping we'd be able to exit the feature branch in Q4, but I'm not confident that that's going to happen now. So we'll see how fast we can execute on this.
Can you add a link in this doc pointing to, pointing to your new design and particularly the API changes to actually track ownership?
Yes.
Thanks.
We haven't published it quite yet. We have it written up. I think I want to review it one more time, and then we'll start publishing.
Okay. Does it have details in there about like contested ownership, where like Jordan and I start fighting over the value of something in an object?
I think for our alpha, we're only going to allow one applier. We'll open that up in beta for multiple appliers.
Okay. Do you have a sketch?
Yes, we do have a
sketch for how that works. I mean,
yeah, we do know how it works, but in order to expedite alpha, we are. This also has implications for put and patch handlers as well as apply.
Really?
Yeah. Because we need to track what other entities in the system are doing in order to give the right conflicts. Our plan right now is to write all the code in a very confined place so that it is basically a few library calls from Kubernetes, so it doesn't entangle the existing handlers any worse than they already are.
Yeah. Okay.
Which leads me to the other half of this is we started a repository to hold apply code. It needs to be renamed at this point because we've shifted direction just a little bit. But if you look in that repository, I added apparently the repository template has this releasing.md file that you're supposed to fill out how the release process works. So I wrote up a sketch of a new release process there. Basically, my intention is to make this library and everything underneath it a like 100% Go compatible. So I'd like no bash scripts in it. I'd like to follow the new Go module semantics. So that means once we get to a stable release, we will be, if we change anything at all about the interface, we'll be adding a v2 because I don't know, I've done hacking on Go projects just out in the wild and hacking on Kubernetes related Go projects, and it is a huge pain to hack on Kubernetes related Go projects compared to regular Go libraries. So
do you think this module thing, I don't know what it is, but do you think you should follow it in other repos, in other?
yeah,
we should start small.
Yeah, we should start small, which is why I'm starting here. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds completely reasonable. And one thing I don't remember though, I don't remember seeing a native tool that would let you know when you had broken compatibility. We've written a couple, like there were some people from Red Hat that have written some, but is there some automated way for you to know that you broke it?
That's a great question.
Yeah, there is something in the Go repository, I think. They are tracking the V1 API.
Antoine is probably too far away from the microphone, but yeah, he says there is something in the Go repository. If so,
Okay.
that's great. If not, then we'll have to trust reviewers.
Oh no, people suck.
I mean, people do, but there's a very small set of reviewers on this repo. So
Yeah, but I think I actually agree with David. I mean,
Same.
in terms of migrating this to the larger organization, even if your repo is fine,
Yeah.
when we start trying to use this more broadly, we have to have a better solution than just the reviewers will catch it.
yeah, no, I agree with that. My nefarious plot, if this works out, is to move more and more parts of API machinery into repositories that follow this versioning model.
I think I'd really like to see the tool that automatically let you know when you were breaking it.
Sure.
Before we expanded it. Like, I'm not saying it has to be here for you to do this here, but before we considered expanding it to other repos, because really, I mean, like, I'm not going to do it on purpose, but chances are.
Yeah, it'll definitely. The tool is definitely necessary. I think it's a pretty easy tool to write. Like, you could probably even string it together with the go list command in Bash. Honestly.
God, don't let Tim Hawken anywhere near that.
Yeah, yeah, I know. He'll probably wrap it in a make file. Yeah, so hopefully we can do better than that.
Okay. Yeah.
You can use Django library just to get the old.
Yeah. Django can parse it, and you could like write a comparison. But I think we should be able to do better
Yeah, I
than that.
suspect that's what the Go project is doing. They pretty much list all the signatures that you have published, and then you can diff against the new and see if you change the signature or remove the signature.
Yeah. Clayton says on chat that Tim would, of course, make a makefile to generate a makefile for him, which is true. That's exactly what would happen. Yeah, I mean, my eventual pipe dream for API machinery is that we publish everything separate from the Kubernetes project proper. Like, I want to put together some slides to state this more clearly, but like in my fantasy world, I can upgrade the API machinery binaries in a cluster without upgrading the Kubernetes version, and vice versa. So I could get new API machinery features without changing anything at all about my existing Kubernetes versions. So I think that's quite a bit different from the world we have today, but I think I have some thoughts on how to get there. So this is just a teaser that I'll probably be saying more about this in the future.
This new repo, which org is it under?
The new repo is in the Kubernetes SIGs organization. Right now it's called Structured Merge and Diff.
This is the one that had some tests in it, right?
Yeah. Originally I was going to collect tests and add the structured merge and diff code. I think now we're going to collect tests and add this the field set code. We've already started a little bit. Yeah, I'll add an action item to add a link. Any other? I think I said everything I wanted to say. So, does anybody else like to talk?
About this topic or about a different topic?
Any topic.
Okay. There are two things that I would like to just check on. The first is webhook conversion from Medi. It slipped from 112. There were issues with how to get a handler to play nice with different kinds of versions. Just want to make sure that that is getting unstuck.
So two issues with that. There's a bug in API machinery. We had a workaround, and I'm working on a proper fix for that.
Okay.
And there is the design issue on regarding the defaulting. We discussed it extensively with Howie and Eric, and I think we have a solution now. Going to send a PR and also share a doc that compare all of the solutions we
The PR you're sending is to the CAP?
PR going to be to the
Yeah.
CAP with the solution that we are proposing, but also have a link to the doc that compare our solutions.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure we weren't holding something up there for that. And then separately for Chow, I've seen some action from him in the storage migration tool. And I wanted to make sure we were on the same page with why using a typed client or using protobuf was a dangerous thing to do for the storage migration tool.
Yeah, I actually discussed with you this morning. We think we will. I will just move to use dynamic client.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear it through the mic.
I was saying he's going to use the dynamic client.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure that all that was going to move forward as well, because it's a subtle thing that will seem to work for a long time until it doesn't.
No, that sounds terrifying. Yeah, no, it has to be the dynamic client.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure it's that subtle.
Oh well. Yeah. Okay, I blame Clayton. Clearly, it was subtle. So that's it for me. I just wanted to make sure those things were moving ahead and that we weren't having disagreements about where they needed to go.
I have one more thing about the CRD resource quota. Is there any update on that? Or is there
CRD resource quota. Yeah, actually, there is a. I guess I can back up and give a brief history. Back in 1.11, a poll came in very late about trying to add resource quota for custom resources. And I had to hold that PR because it was duplicating some very sticky code from the garbage collector. And we really don't want a copy of that code. So there is a community member who I don't think regularly attends this call, but a guy named Polynomial is actually building out a dynamic informer and a dynamic lister based on the dynamic client that we now have. Once we have those pieces, I'm expecting to be able to clean up how the garbage collector manages dynamic resources, and then clean up how, and then add it to resource quota as well, right? That way we'll be sharing the same informer, we'll have the same logic for handling when these things get added and removed. That said, Polynomial is just a random volunteer. I don't know if he has a specific ETA. I've just been reviewing his polls as they come in.
Okay, so Nikita is not working on this particular part, is she?
Nikita did the original poll. I hadn't seen her active on the dynamic informer poll. I just hadn't thought to follow up with her on it. I hadn't seen action in a while.
Okay, so you can reach out to Polynomial if you want to figure out more.
Sure.
Yeah.
And he's not possessive. If he builds the core infrastructure and someone else comes along and wants to work on the rest.
Cool. Yeah. Any other topics? I thought of one other thing that I could say, which is everybody's favorite, the SSH tunnels. An update, they've been deprecated for a year. They're going away this quarter. I will probably be circulating a design for something that's functionally equivalent but cloud neutral. So just a heads up that this might be coming.
Okay.
If there's nothing else, then let's call it a day. Going once, going twice. All right.
Bye, guys.
See you later.